lovely students, and welcome back to Learning English with Atena. In the last lesson, as part of my series focused on very advanced English, tackling everyday topics or the first things that you learn in English to an advanced level. Last video, I did a really fun video about how to ask someone out, how to flirt with someone, and ask them on a date. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Today, I'm doing a video on how to break up with someone in super advanced C1 to C2 level English. Now, this is something I hope you never have to do. But if you are going to do it, you might as well do it inside. Am I right? Right. Let's get on with the lesson. Before I get into the speeches that I've created to help you break up with someone, I want to talk about a few cliches that you might have heard in films or on TV or even read in books. Maybe you've even heard them in real life, but I really hope not. These are phrases that people often say to end a relationship, but they don't usually express what the speaker really means. So I'm gonna translate them for you. The first one. You might have a version of this in your own language. It's not you, it's me. Also, don't get that worse and say it's not me, it's you, because that's even worse. If someone says it's not you, it's me, the translation is that it's probably you. The next one, oh, this one's painful. I love you. I'm just not in love with you. Translation of this is that they might see you more as a friend. The next one, heartbreaking. I need space. If someone needs space, they need space away from you. Move on to the next. Oh, my word. This is triggering. You deserve better. You deserve better. I guess when someone says this, they just can't think of anything better to say. That's a major red flag. Now, I don't think there are any really good ways to break up with someone. Let's start with level 1. And this is gonna be a very basic way to break up with someone. Are you ready? Because this is going to be brutal. I'm not happy. This isn't working. We need to break up. Okay, I'm going to take that as a baseline for my super advanced ways to break up with someone. Before I start, I need to add my disclaimer. The following levels are for entertainment purposes. I do not recommend that you try to break up with someone and also aim for a C1 or C2 level of language while doing it. I do think that this is a really fun and interesting way of teaching you advanced level grammar and vocabulary. If you copy my words when breaking up with your partner, that's on you. Your partner will probably be confused or furious or both. Let's go with number 2. You're a fantastic person, and I've treasured the moments we've shared. But I've been reflecting a lot lately, and it's become clear that we're as different as chalk and cheese. Let's call it spade. Our paths are heading in completely different directions. The odds are that we're just going to make each other miserable in the future. This has been as good a relationship as I've ever had. But I think we need to acknowledge reality and go our separate ways. That's a fairly advanced text. And there is a lot to unpack here. There is a lot to analyze. There were two idioms that I want to point out. Chalk and cheese is the first, which means completely different. Chalk and cheese are very different. We can say that people or things are like chalk and cheese, or are as different as chalk and cheese. Notice the pronunciation of and. In this phrase, I drop the D sound and I say N. Chalk and cheese. We call chalk and cheese a binomial. And in a binomial, there are two words separated by a conjunction. And the conjunction is often and, said as N. The word order is usually fixed. It's always chalk and cheese and never cheese and chalk. Chalk and cheese is also an alliterative phrase. It's an alliteration, meaning that the two words start with the same sound. Chalk, cheese. There are lots of other binomial in English, and they're not always idioms, as in this case. They include ones that use synonyms like pride and joy. Pride and joy. We also have ones that use opposites like ups and downs. The other idiom I want to talk about is to call a spade a spade. To call a spade a spade. And I feel this one is fairly British. This means to tell the truth and say exactly what you think, even if it's not polite, even if it's gonna hurt someone's feelings. There is another advanced phrase in this text. To go one's separate ways. To start moving or acting independently of each other. To part company. For instance, after graduation, the friends promised to keep in touch even as they went their separate ways. Now, I want to touch on some structures I use that are very advanced. The first is ziyadza. Ziyadza. Now, this is a phrase that we use to say how likely it is that something will happen. You saw this phrase in the sentence. The odds are that we're just gonna make each other miserable in the future. Meaning, it's likely that we will make each other miserable. An example, the odds are that Jane and Ellie will break up soon. The second phrase is an advanced comparative. You saw this in the sentence. This has been as good a relationship as I've ever had. As good a relationship as. I'm saying as a weak form. As good a relationship as. This means that the relationship was as good as or equally good as any other relationship the person has had. The structure is as plus adjective plus a or an plus noun plus as. You're as patient a partner as I could wish for. You're as perfect a match as I could ever hope for. Alright, let's see if we can make it more advanced. Let's move to level 3. Are you ready? Our relationship has experienced its share of waxing and waning. You know that I've always had a jealous streak, but lately I've been feeling there's a lack of trust between us. It's been an honor to have been a part of your life, and I've cherished our time together. However, given that trust is fundamental, we would be better off parting ways. Tough to hear, but trust. Trust is essential in a relationship. Let's look at some of the vocabulary and structures in this text. The first one, to wax and wane. To wax and wane. This is another binomial with two words with opposite meanings. I will say that this is quite an old-fashioned idiom, and we don't tend to use the words separately. Wane may be but wax in this context, not as much. To wax is to grow stronger. To wane is to grow weaker. To wax and wane, to grow stronger and weaker. It comes from the phrases of the moon. When the moon is getting bigger, it's waxing. When it's getting smaller, it's waning. Next, I want to point out a very strong collocation, a jealous streak. A streak is a characteristic, and it's often an unpleasant one. If someone has a jealous streak, they have a tendency to be jealous sometimes. Other strong collocations include a stubborn streak, a vicious streak, a nasty streak, an independent streak. That one could be used positively or negatively. Streak characteristic. Finally, I want to touch on an advanced conditional sentence from the text. You saw that given that trust is fundamental, we would be better off parting ways. Given that means when you consider that. Given that Heather is in love with you, she will be devastated when you break it off. Okay, that was pretty advanced, but I know we can do better. Let's move to level 4, our most advanced level. Are you ready? It seems that our paths in life are diverging. We've indisputably had some incredible moments together, but it's imperative that I be true to myself. Recently, it's become apparent to me that variety is the spice of life, and I feel a powerful need to explore diverse relationships. This decision hasn't been taken lightly, but it's essential for both of us to prioritize our individual happiness and fulfillment. Okay, good riddance. What a horrible speech for a breakup. It's horribly advanced as well. So let's take a look at some of the vocabulary and structures that are used in that text. Firstly, I want to highlight the verb to seem. And I know this is not an advanced verb, so you may already know that it means to appear. One common use of this verb is to make what we are saying less forceful. It softens it. Often when we're not sure whether what we are saying is true or if we want to be polite. This is a skill that we call hedging. You often see to seem in the structure. It seems that, or it seems to me that. It seems that Jeremy is looking to end the relationship, for example. I don't know for sure. That's what it seems like to me. The next word I want to draw your attention to is indisputable. Indisputable. This is an advanced adverb meaning in a way that is true or cannot be disagreed with. The adverb indisputably emphasizes or boosts what we're saying. Other similar adverbs include undeniably and unquestionably. Now I want to talk about the phrase variety is the spice of life. It's a proverb that means new things and changes make life more interesting. And this is probably one of the worst things that you could say during a breakup because it makes the person think that you want to date other people. Okay, there are two grammatical structures that I want to cover now. The first was in the sentence. It's imperative that I be true to myself. You can see I be instead of the usual I am. This is an example of the subjunctive mood, which we use to express possibilities and wishes. If we use the subjunctive mood in the present tense with the verb to be, we use be for all subjects. I be, you be, he be, she be, for example. Quite fun to say he be, she be. We use the base form with all subjects. So instead of she goes, the subjunctive is she go. Here are a couple more examples. I propose that you be completely honest about the reasons why you want to break up. Or it's my recommendation that she end the relationship immediately. The subjunctive mood is formal and impersonal. And in modern usage, it's not particularly common. And people will often say, it's imperative that I am true to myself, for example. And this video is all about advanced English, and the subjunctive is super advanced. And I love the way it sounds. I think it sounds really elegant. I just like it, and I think you should like it too. Finally, I want to look at the passive voice. You saw it in this sentence. This decision hasn't been taken lightly. Hasn't been taken is an example of the present perfect simple passive voice. Has not been plus the past participle. In this case, the passive voice makes the sentence very impersonal by not naming the person who made the decision. And it's more commonly heard from leaders who, like politicians or people in business, who don't want to take responsibility for something. I sincerely hope that you never hear this when someone is breaking up with you. Well, I really hope no one ever breaks up with you. But I really hope they don't use the passive voice whilst doing it. An example of how politicians would use it. Mistakes have been made. Promises have been broken. They're not saying I made a mistake or we broke promises. They have been broken. They have been made. Okay? I really hope you'll be able to remember some of the idiomatic language and advanced structures thanks to this lesson. I will see you soon for another lesson. Bye.